Welcome to the Aligned Ambition podcast. I'm your host, Pooja Venkatraman. I'm a double Harvard grad, former BCG consultant, and now an executive coach for high achievers. On this podcast, we are going to tackle the 4 key things that you need to figure out in order to live a life of aligned ambition. Those 4 things are stress, productivity, performance, and purpose. We are going to make sure that you're driving your car in the direction that you actually want to go. That is the purpose part. We're also going to make sure that your progress along the road is consistent and effective. That's the productivity and performance part. And we're going to make sure that the fuel you're pouring into your tank isn't so noxious that it's filling your car with fumes and making the whole ride miserable. That is the stress part. Because if you can tackle those 4 things, stress, productivity, performance, and purpose, you can build the life and the career that you actually want. Not the life you think you're supposed to have, not the life that burns you out or doesn't fit quite right, but the life you actually want. One that fulfills your biggest ambitions and unleashes your fullest potential without sacrificing your sanity, your relationships, your authenticity, or your paycheck. A life that feels as good on the inside as it looks on the outside. That's what aligned ambition is all about. Let's get started. Hey guys, today we're going to talk about the productivity and performance aspect of aligned ambition. And I want to talk to you about a concept I call me problem versus process problem. So this is for when you are troubleshooting something that has not gone right? Something from a performance perspective or productivity perspective, you're like, I didn't do this right. I didn't get the result I want. And so these are all issues I talk to my clients about all the time. And so it could be a performance thing where something like you're handling a meeting a certain way, you're handling a project a certain way. You go into the meeting and you get a question you didn't anticipate and you're not able to answer it, right? You're like, didn't anticipate that would be an issue. That's something I should have brushed up on, right? Or you kind of plan the next steps for a certain project. And then afterward, you're like, wait, I missed something. Didn't realize that we should include this, or we should also loop in this other team member, like something happened, I missed something. Those I would kind of call performance things, right? Where it's like you're trying to effectively execute the project, the initiative, whatever it is you're trying to get done, and something doesn't go the way that you wanted. You don't anticipate something, right? I would put that more in the category of performance. I was troubleshooting with a client on that recently. Then there's also productivity things, right? Where it might be things like, I want to be more focused, but I'm still noticing myself get distracted. I want to spend less time on my phone, but I still just kind of grab it. I want to procrastinate less, et cetera, right? Those I would put more in the realm of productivity. And so when it comes to performance or productivity, and you're noticing I'm not being as effective as I want to be, I have a meeting that didn't go well, I didn't navigate the next steps correctly, I didn't get the results I wanted in this project, in this initiative, or I am not kind of jumping into work, I'm not being focused, I'm kind of getting too distracted, I'm on my phone, all those things, right? Productivity and performance. When you're troubleshooting those things, when you've noticed something hasn't gone well and now you're troubleshooting, before you jump into the tactics, right? Before you jump into here's what I need to do differently and here's what's not working and any of that stuff, the number one most important thing to do is to first check in with yourself. Are you framing this as a me problem or a process problem? And you want to get it out of me problem framing and into process problem framing before you do any troubleshooting, any figuring out what you want to do differently, et cetera. So let me explain what those 2 things mean. Framing something as a me problem means that you make it mean something bad about yourself, right? So if the meeting doesn't go well, the project doesn't go well, you make it mean I'm not capable. I'm not good at this. I've hit my ceiling. I can't be promoted. I'm just not cut out for this. Notice how those are all blanket statements about you as a human being, like the kind of person you are, your overall level of potential and capability. It's like a flat blanket statement about you as a human being. Right? Or on the productivity side, if you are getting distracted, you're on your phone, you might tell yourself like, I'm lazy. I don't have good willpower. I need to get my shit together. That's something I hear all the time from my clients. It's something I see that my own brain says to me all the time as well. Like I can't be trusted. I don't have good willpower, right? All of these are blanket statements about you as a human being. So what your brain is doing there is it's noticing the circumstance, right? It's noticing the thing that didn't go well, the gap between what you wanted to happen and what actually happened. And then your brain is making an interpretation of that. It's having a thought about it that's making it a me problem, right? It's interpreting the gap between what you wanted to happen and what actually happened as something fundamentally wrong with you, like some sort of character flaw or just this blanket statement about you as a human being. Here's the problem with me problem framing, right? First, I just want you to notice, how does it feel when you frame something as a me problem, right? When you say to yourself, I'm not good at this. I'm not capable. I just don't get that. That's just like not my thing. I'm lazy. I'm such a procrastinator. I'm such a people pleaser. I'm such a perfectionist, right? When you apply these labels, that's the first thing I want you to check is how does that feel? If you're watching the video, you probably can see this framework floating next to me: circumstance, thought, feeling, action, result. I'm walking you through that right now, right? We started with the circumstance, which is just the gap between what actually happened and what you want it to happen. That's the circumstance, the neutral circumstance. Then I'm pointing out to you the automatic thought that your brain had about that circumstance, which is a me problem type of thought, right? This gap between expectations and what actually happened, this gap between what I wanted to happen and what actually happened, that gap means I'm lazy, I'm incapable, I'm whatever, right? Like it's a blanket statement about me. So we did the circumstance, we did the thought, and I want you to notice, how does that feel? When you say that to yourself, when your brain says to you, when your brain gives you that automatic thought, a me problem interpretation of the situation, how does that feel? My guess is it doesn't feel good, right? My guess is it probably feels heavy, shameful, like maybe despairing, maybe embarrassed, maybe angry, maybe frustrated. It's going to be sort of a negative fight or flight adjacent type of emotion. It's not going to feel very good. And then I want you to notice, what are the actions that come out of that emotion, right? When you feel that way, what do you tend to want to do? And very often what I see with people when they're in me problem framing, they have what I like to call boom bust actions, right? And so the actions will either be like, it'll be very all or nothing. It'll either be like, we got to go ham, we got to do it all. If I'm grabbing my phone too much, then I need to like throw my phone away and like delete all my apps and do all these things. And it's not that the actions themselves are bad, right? I'm not saying you shouldn't keep your phone in another room or you shouldn't, prepare for 20 possible questions in the next meeting. It's not really about the actions. It's about what are the emotions, what's the thoughts and feelings that are driving the action. And when you're in a me problem state of mind, when you're coming with that sense of urgency and shame and self-frustration and self-distrust, and sometimes even self-hatred, I know that's a really big, scary word, but you might resonate with that. You might say, yeah, I do kind of like hate myself. I'm sort of so angry. I'm so annoyed at myself when the result isn't good from a performance or a productivity standpoint, right? And that's only happening because your brain is framing the gap between what happened and what you want it to happen as a me problem. When your brain is in that headspace, right? The me problem headspace, the me problem thought and feeling combination, the action plans that it tends to output don't tend to be as effective. They'll have this boom bust all or nothing quality where you're either doing everything possible in a frantic, rushed, ashamed kind of way to kind of take care of the problem, or it'll be a bust. It'll be a nothing. You'll be like, oh, I can't do it. I just give up. I'm not even going to try to advance my career because I'm just not good at this. I should just get another job, right? Again, that might be something that you want to do. I was chatting with another client about this recently too, where it's not really about your actions. I can't tell you what actions are right or wrong. It really is about what headspace, what thoughts and feelings do those actions come from? From what headspace do those actions arise? That tells you way more about whether the actions are going to be effective or ineffective than just the actions themselves, right? When the actions come from a me problem framing, a sense of shame and not good enough, and I'm so frustrated with myself, and overall your system just being in fight or flight, right? Your system feeling threatened and insecure, that tends to generate less effective actions. Not totally ineffective, right? My clients are super high achievers, and I'm kind of this way too. I can be in a little bit of fight or flight, be taking less effective actions, still get pretty good external results, right? That's actually how capable you are, is you can actually be kind of stressed out in fight or flight and still do pretty good work. It's not as good work as you could do, and it tends to burn you out. It's not super fun. It's not that these actions, though, are totally ineffective. It's just that you get even better actions when you come from a place of security and not feeling threatened. So now let's talk about process problem, right? So the me problem framing, where it's like an outcome happened that I didn't want from a performance perspective or productivity perspective, my brain automatically makes that mean something bad about me as a human being, as a worker, as a person, right? In terms of my potential. And then that makes me feel basically shitty about myself, right? That's the simplest way of saying it. You don't feel great about yourself. And then you have these boom busty, all or nothing actions to try to take care of it. Less effective, right? That's the me problem framing. Versus the process problem framing is where you look at it and you're like, this has nothing to do with me. Has nothing to do with me as a human being and who I am and my character and my potential and me. It's just a process problem. So let me give you a couple examples. So on the performance side, right? Let's say you go into that meeting and you get peppered with a bunch of questions you totally didn't anticipate. And you're like, whoa, I completely did not prep this meeting the way that we should have. I didn't lead the project team the right way. Wow, that just really did not go well. The me problem version of that would be like, the interpretation of that would be like, oh, I'm terrible at this. I feel so bad. Like I really led the team the wrong way. I'm not good at this, all those things. The process problem interpretation is very calm and very impersonal, right? It's basically just like, okay, what did I miss? Clearly there was something I missed or I didn't anticipate. It's not a big deal. Doesn't mean something about me as a human being. It just means I didn't realize that that was the big issue that was on everyone's minds. I didn't realize that like something like this had already been done 3 years ago and everyone would ask questions about why we're doing it again and again, like, this time or whatever it is, right? But it's like, oh, just didn't know. I didn't know. And now here's the gap in the process that created the gap in the outcome. And now here's what I'm going to do differently, right? Very neutral framing. It has nothing to do with you as a human being. It's just like, oh, there was a gap in the process. There was a blip. Okay, I'm just going to adjust it and figure out what I need to do differently next time, right? So that is a process problem framing of a moment where you're like, my performance wasn't as good as I wanted it to be, right? And your brain is going to want to like frame it as a screw up and sort of be like, oh, I made a mistake. But just to kind of be like, I didn't make a mistake. I didn't know, right? This is a process problem. I just have to find the gap in the process and fix it. So that's on the performance side. And it's funny, when I was chatting with my client about this concept, she had said to me, okay, well, that makes sense from like, okay, I literally didn't know. So, okay, I can like try to do it better next time. But she was like, what when you do know the answer, right? Like you do know that you like shouldn't be on your phone during meetings, or you do know that you shouldn't procrastinate, or you do know that you shouldn't overeat or whatever it is, but then you do it anyway, right? Like she was like, that's a screw up, right? Like that's a mistake. That's got to be a me problem, right? And I was like, I actually think that's a process problem as well. Right. So let's kind of take the example of procrastinating, right? Let's say you know that you shouldn't procrastinate. You don't want to procrastinate. You know that it's not like a mystery. It's not helpful to you, right? But you find yourself doing it anyway, or pick any other kind of bad habit that you don't like. That to me is still a process problem, because what's happening there is there's some part of your brain that has some need that it's trying to fulfill, and it's fulfilling that need by engaging in the bad habit. Right? By procrastinating, by being on your phone, by staying up too late, by overeating, whatever it is, right? It's still a process problem. I want you to think of your brain as like a collection of circuits, right? All these little, like the circuitry that's in there. And you might have 80% of your brain, 80% of the circuits are like, we're totally agreed, we're totally aligned, we don't want to procrastinate, right? We might still have a couple circuits in there that are like, no, we want to. We still want to, right? And like if the need that those circuits are trying to fulfill, if the need of like, it could be something like, I feel really overwhelmed, right? And that's why I want to procrastinate, is like getting started feels really overwhelming. Or it could be, I have a fear of failure and I'm afraid once I get started, I'll like expose myself to like not being able to do this. And then I'm going to have a fear of failure. So those parts of your brain are just trying to protect you, right? And all that's happening is in the moment when it was time to sit down and do the thing, you didn't know how to manage your brain in such a way that those procrastination circuits didn't hijack you and didn't take you over, right? And that is still a process problem. It is not a me problem. It's not a statement about your character and your potential and your capabilities and who you are as a human being. It's literally a process problem, right? Where it's as if 3 wheels of your car were driving forward and 1 wheel was driving backward. Just a process problem, right? Because there's so many different components of your brain, so many things that are all working, all trying individually to really help you. But sometimes the circuitry goes in opposite directions and one piece takes over that you don't want it to take over. But that's still a process problem, not a me problem. And so all of this is when you're troubleshooting your productivity and your performance, right? Before you even get into the details. I see this again and again, and I do this too, right? Whether it's with my business results, whether it's with my day-to-day productivity, whether it's with like my client calls, anything that I'm trying to improve and do better from a performance and productivity perspective, because I care so much about doing things well, right? And I know you do too. You really, really care about doing things well. And if you're like me, it might have kind of become part of your identity, right? Like doing things well is a part of your identity. And so when you don't do something well, it doesn't just feel like a neutral thing that happened. It feels like an identity violation. It feels like being a bad person. I love this concept of an identity violation. I heard this first. Don't remember the article that I read it in, but they gave the example of like a man wearing a skirt, right? And if it's a man that doesn't feel secure in his masculinity, he experiences wearing a skirt as like an identity violation. It's like, oh, I'm doing something like men don't do, but I'm doing it. And that feels really bad, like really, really bad. And so even if you're not a man, or even if you're someone who's very comfortable in their masculinity and it wouldn't bother you to wear a skirt, you can probably imagine that, right? Somebody who is a man and then is like putting a skirt on and really feels like, whoa, this is like, I shouldn't be doing this, right? If you made that person walk outside, they would probably be very, very stressed out, right? That's an example of an identity violation, where your brain has a concept of who you are, and then you do something
that's counter to that, and your brain freaks out. Right? It doesn't feel good. It feels really bad and really stressful, and probably everything in your brain is trying to like scrub you clean, right? And like fix that identity violation as fast as possible. Because it feels really bad. It feels really weird, right? Not even just weird, it feels bad. And so I think for high achievers, right, what stresses us out may not be like wearing a skirt in public, right? That might not be the thing that stresses you out. But I think for high achievers, because we built an identity around achievement, right? An identity around doing things well, being on top of our shit, being really productive, being the best in the class, being that person that like always has it together, all those things, if that becomes your identity, doing something badly can feel like an identity violation, right? It feels as bad as like that person with fragile masculinity wearing a skirt. They're like, freak out, get the skirt off me, right? And so it's very normal from a productivity and performance perspective, when you have a gap in performance or a gap in productivity, that your brain turns that into an identity violation and then turns it into a me problem, right? And your brain is basically just trying to beat you back into line as fast as possible because it's so threatened. It's so threatened by the idea that you could do something not at the best in the best possible way, right? And so that's why your brain will flare it up into a me problem and kind of kick you into fight or flight, is because it feels like it's an identity violation. But using this framing of this is a process problem. It's not a me problem. It doesn't reflect on me, right? It's not that I am lazy or incapable or any of those things. All that happened here is a gap in the process, right? Maybe it's something I literally didn't know. I didn't know that I should do this. I didn't know that I should anticipate this. Next time I will, right? Could be a literal knowledge gap, super simple. Just got to find the gap and like fix it for next time, the process gap, find it and fix it for next time. Or it could be an execution gap where you're like, I know the answer, but in the moment, I could not get all the circuits in my brain firing in the right direction, firing in the same direction to do that thing. And that's still a process problem, right? That's still something where I now just have to keep tweaking. How do I manage my brain in the moment as I'm doing these things so that I can get it firing in the right direction? Both of those are process problems and not me problems. And it's so important before you jump into the problem solving, right? Before you jump into, okay, why did that happen? What did I do wrong? And how do I like make things, how do I adjust things? What am I doing differently? Before you jump into all of that, before you jump into the action, right? The analysis and the action planning, to first check your thoughts and feelings and just see, am I seeing this as a me problem or am I seeing this as a process problem? And you can tell based on your feelings. Right? You don't even necessarily have to identify the exact thoughts. You can do that too, right? But you can usually tell based on your feelings. Feeling like something's a me problem feels rushed, feels urgent, feels shameful, feels embarrassing, just feels bad. It feels really bad, right? And you'll probably want to like do everything to get away from it or like do nothing and give up, right? That's how you know when you're in me problem territory. Or check in with yourself. Am I seeing this as a process problem? And when you see something as a process problem, the emotions are usually like calm, objective. It's like not a big deal. The like emotional kind of intensity is not very high. You can even be curious. You can be sort of nerdy and analytical. You can almost kind of be eager to get into it and tweak things, right? But all the kind of the temperature is very neutral. It's very calm and it's not about you, right? And so checking in with those that you can tell emotionally, which kind of zone you're in, and then notice for yourself, what are the actions that tend to come out of when you being in process problem mode? Right. And chances are it's not going to be all or nothing. It's going to be pretty nuanced. You're going to have some like quick and simple fixes for things. You're going to be able to spotlight the issue right away and say, okay, here's what I need to change. Not a big deal. Here's how we'll implement it. It's usually fast and effective, right? These actions are usually going to be more effective than the ones that you have when you're in me problem mode. But most of all, it's going to feel really calm and it's not going to take up a lot of your energy and your bandwidth and the gas in your tank to be able to do the problem solving. So that's what I wanted to talk about today is like when you're troubleshooting these productivity and performance problems. And I think this is especially relevant when you're in transitions as well as when you're at an inflection point, right? When you're at an inflection point, you're leveling up your performance and you are updating your operating model, right? Like to me, the definition of an inflection point is when the operating model that has gotten you this far is not going to be able to carry you forward to the place where you want to go. Right? So you have to update your operating model to now reach the place where you want to go. There's a great coach called Marshall Goldsmith. He had a sentence, he actually wrote a whole book about this called "What got you here won't get you there." Right? That's the inflection point problem. That's the operating model problem in a single sentence. What got you here won't get you there. And so when you're in the middle of an inflection point where you're leveling up at work or you're figuring out how to deliver the same performance at work, but with less time and less bandwidth put in, right? You're updating your operating model. By definition, you're going to have to try a bunch of new stuff, right? That's the only way to update your operating model. There's no other way to do it. There's no one that can give you the perfect blueprint, the perfect step-by-step guide, exactly how to do it. You're just going to have to get in there and try a bunch of stuff. And you can get advice and you can get pointers from people. And if you're working with me, I can give you great hypotheses and the pattern recognition I've seen across lots of clients. And at the end of the day, you're still gonna have to get in there and just try a bunch of stuff, right? Which means you are going to try things that don't work, right? You're going to experience things that feel like failures. You're definitely going to do things where you don't get the result or the outcome that you're looking for, right? And at that moment, your brain is going to want to be like that guy who's wearing a skirt, right? Your brain is going to want to make that an identity violation and kind of go into fight or flight about it and make it a me problem. And that's the moment where you're going to have to say, hang on, brain, this is a process problem. And all we have to do is adjust the process and get yourself out of that heightened fight or flight state and into that calm, objective, curious, nerdy problem solving state. Right. So this is really important in inflection points when you're updating your operating model, because you're going to have to try a bunch of stuff. Not everything you try is going to work. And then you need a calm and objective problem solving process on the other side of the things that don't work, so that you can glean the learnings and go back there and try something else without totally burning yourself out. Right. So that's the me problem versus process problem framing is super critical at inflection points. It is also super critical at transition points. Right. So transitions are when you're navigating either to a new role in a new company, or you're launching your own venture, or you're taking on projects and kind of becoming, building a portfolio career, whatever it might be. Transition points also involve a failure, right? A fair amount of like you try stuff and it doesn't quite work because you're just talking to people, right? You're doing coffee chats, you're networking, you're interviewing, you're pitching, you're fundraising, you're doing all these things. Inevitably, right? As your idea hits the real world and hits other people's opinions, you're going to have a lot of moments where you're like, they're not getting it, they're not buying, they're not compelled by what I'm saying, they don't want to move into the next round, whatever it might be, right? And again, that's where your brain is going to want to make it a me problem. It's going to want to make it mean, oh, I'm not qualified to get this kind of role. Oh, my startup idea is terrible. Oh, I'm never going to be able to make my freelance, my portfolio career take off, right? Like, what am I doing, right? So it's going to want to make it a me problem. And that's yet another moment where you're going to want to make it a process problem to say, okay, where in the process is something was one of these screws is a little bit loose and I just need to tighten it, right? How do I express my past experience and how it connects to this role? I need to explain that more clearly. How do I explain how me as an independent consultant can really come and solve their problem? I need a better proof point. I need a clearer, simpler explanation. I need a better follow-up process, whatever it might be. But to find the sort of process bolt that needs to be tightened rather than grabbing a whip and beating yourself up, right? That's the me problem framing. So whether you are at an inflection point and you're leveling up your performance, or you're transitioning and you're kind of having all the conversations that are required in a transition, either way, those are key moments where your productivity and your performance are going to be lower than you normally expect them to be, right? Because you're doing something different. You're doing something different, whether with an inflection point, you're doing something different. And with a transition point, you're putting yourself out there way more than you normally do, right? And so it is normal for your failure rate to be higher than you're normally expecting it to, right? You're not going to have 90% success anymore when you're trying to do something new or when you're putting yourself out there to find new opportunities. And your brain is going to want to make that an identity violation. Your brain is going to want to make that a me problem. But if you let your brain stay in me problem mode, you're going to do that frantic, less effective problem solving. You'll give up too soon. You'll burn yourself out. It won't feel very good. And it's just a harder path to get to the result you want, or you may not even get to the result you want, right? Versus if you can make sure to check which problem solving zone you're in. Are you in me problem mode or process problem mode? And then switch yourself over to process problem mode. That's when you're going to do way better, calmer, more effective problem solving on your productivity and your performance. And you're going to be able to, and you're not going to burn out while you do it, right? It's going to feel very normal, very routine, just like a couple little puzzles and things that you're solving during the day. It's not going to take up so much emotional bandwidth. It's not going to use up so much of the gas in your tank. So then you're going to be able to get more stuff done instead of spending half the day just feeling like a terrible person and then feeling like you either have to overwork or just give up and scroll on your phone because you can't do the things that you want to do. So that's why it's so important to kind of check in on this before you do any of the other problem solving in terms of how you actually improve your productivity or your performance. So if you are at an inflection point and you're feeling like, the way that I normally do things, I can see that it's not getting me to the next level, or I can see that it's not making me as effective in this next level. If you're already there, I know I need to update things. Or if you're in that transition and you're like, I'm putting myself out there, or I need to put myself out there more. How do I navigate this transition super effectively? My number one thing is to use the me problem versus process problem framing before you kind of go into your problem solving. And then my second suggestion is come talk to me. Come talk to me, book a free coaching consult. Let's talk about how we can work together. I work with my coaches. From the beginning, I've worked with coaches on this. I continue to work with coaches on this. I find this to be much, much easier to do with somebody else, right? I literally do this all day long. I am the professional in this. And you would think that like, I don't need a coach to help me do this. I can just do this all in my head. I still need a coach to help me do this because I still have a human brain. I still have a human brain that will flip over into like a me problem framing of things that will get into fight or flight. And so having my coach at my side, I talk to her every single week. Having her help me notice when my brain has gone into me problem mode, and helping me de-escalate it, see the problem calmly and objectively. What I find again and again is like it's easier to just do the work with somebody else than to do it all by myself. And it's faster and it's more effective, right? I get out of loops in a few days versus like in weeks or in months. And my coach, because she knows me so well and because she doesn't have emotional skin in the game, right? She's totally objective about all the situations I'm going through. It's really easy for her to be like, oh yeah, that is like, you don't have to think about it like that. Here's a new perspective on the situation. That's not a perspective that's going to help you, right? It's so easy for her to see my blind spots and just cut through the noise super simply. She doesn't have an emotional skin in the game. And she's able to be that objective third party. So if you're in an inflection point, if you're in a transition point, you're noticing that it's either burning you out to kind of do the iterative problem solving to figure out how to do this, or you're not doing it as fast as you want to be doing it, or just as having a high emotional cost, then I want you to apply this concept as you're working on it. And I also want you to come talk to me. You can book a free coaching consult at poojavicoaching.com/contact. I put the link in the episode description as well. But come talk to me and let's talk about how you can do the iterative problem solving you need to do in a way that's super effective and also less emotionally costly. I'd love to work with you on that. But whether or not you come talk to me, think about this concept, me problem versus process problem, and notice when your brain frames something as a me problem, and then nudge your brain over to kind of think about, well, if this was a process problem, then how would I tackle it, right? And use that to calm your nervous system down, to come back to a state of feeling calm and an objective, rather than feeling kind of hyped up and threatened, calm, objective, unafraid, secure, and then see from that place, what's the kind of action planning that you do? What's the diagnosis, the analysis, the solutions that you come up with? I bet you if you do a side-by-side, right, of a time when you saw something as a me problem versus a time when you saw something as a process problem, and you literally mapped out, right, how did you feel and what was the action that you took? You lay those two things side by side, it's going to blow your mind how much more effective you were when you were in process problem mode compared to when you were in me problem mode. I actually did this exercise for myself right when I first was going through my coach certification. This was like in early 2021. I literally mapped it out. I took a problem where I had framed it as me problem, and I kind of mapped out, well, here's how I was feeling, and then here's how I problem solved and troubleshot that problem. And then I took a problem that I considered a process problem. I did the same thing. And I was like, holy shit, I need to just see everything as a process problem. Like this, why? Like this is so, it's like both emotionally costly and ineffective to see things as a me problem. I still remember, I think the me problem was like a productivity thing where I was like, I procrastinated, I didn't get enough done. And then my brain made it mean like, oh, you're so lazy and you can't be trusted. And like, all these things. And then my action plan was very much like, okay, well now I have to get twice as much stuff done tomorrow. And I'm like beating myself up the whole way versus the process problem. And my brain just had done this automatically, right? With this other thing, I didn't do it consciously. But for me, the process problem was when I forgot to put my retainer in. So I wear a retainer every night because I had braces as a kid. And when I forgot to put my retainer in, I was just like, oh, well, I should just put it in tomorrow. And like, oh, maybe maybe I need an alarm or maybe I need a reminder. If I forgot it for a couple of days, I'd be like, okay, well, why am I forgetting it? Do I just need to put the retainer in a different place near my sink so that I see it before I go to bed? So calm. So objective, not a big deal. I didn't try to wear my retainer all day to make up for the fact I didn't wear it last night. It was a non-issue. It was something I didn't even notice had happened, right? In terms of noticing and problem solving the problem. It was such a small part of my day. It took up so little of my gas and energy that it was not even a significant feature of my day. And I remember I laid out the me problem solving versus the process problem solving. And I was like, oh, this me problem stuff is a huge waste of time. So emotionally costly and it's less effective. Are you kidding me? I should be problem solving everything the same way I problem solved me having forgotten my retainer. Just so easy, so simple, so effective, and so emotionally cheap, right, to problem solve. And by the way, I have excellent teeth. I wear a retainer all the time. I went to my dentist recently and they were like, I've never seen teeth this good. And I'm like, I'm fucking amazing at taking care of my teeth. Right? That's the result you get from process problem solving. when you're just really calm and neutral and objective and you're like, this has nothing to do with me. It's just a process. Like, who cares? Let's just tweak the process a little bit and see what happens next. But it doesn't feel personal, right? So I'll give you for that as an exercise is like, think about a time, because your brain does this automatically, right? I guarantee your brain automatically goes into me problem mode and automatically goes into process problem mode at different points in the day. Just map it out. Just map out a time you went into me problem mode. How'd you think about the problem? How'd you feel? And then what was the problem solving and the action plan that you came up with? And then find a time when your brain automatically went into process problem mode. And like, how are you thinking? How are you feeling? What was the action plan you came up with? I think you're going to have a mind-blowing moment the same way I had a mind-blowing moment like 3 or 4 years ago when I laid those two side by side. And I was like, damn. With this win-win on the process problem side is crazy. Like, what am I doing? I should never criticize myself ever again. It's a total waste of time. So I'll offer that to you. Do that exercise, lay these two side by side, see what happens. And then if you're in an inflection point or you're in a transition point, you're at one of those places in your career where a lot of like iteration and failure is necessary to figure out how to get to the next level or to figure out how to go to the next place you want to go. It's going to require a bunch of like your brain flaring up, right? And experiencing some of these identity violations as you're not doing things as well as you're used to doing. Come get some support. Make this process way, way easier for yourself. Have somebody to come just calm your nervous system down, teach you these tools, and then help you kind of stay in objective process problem solving mode, keep you accountable and on track. And kind of running experiments as you go. That's the work I do with my clients. It's the work I love doing because I know how capable you are. I know how much you are so going to do the things you want to do. And I'm just here to support you a little bit and get your fearful brain out of your way so you can go do the amazing things that I know you're here to do. So come talk to me, book a free coaching consult. But no matter what you do that side-by-side example for yourself. See what happens when you're in a me problem mode versus process problem mode and just blow your own mind with how much more effective and easier being in process problem mode is. That's it for today. I will talk to you guys next week.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Aligned Ambition podcast. Make sure to subscribe if you haven't already and share this podcast with anyone you know that you think could use it. If you'd like to explore working together in a one-on-one coaching engagement with me, book a free consult call at poojavcoaching.com/contact. You can grab that link in the episode description. And if you have any questions, thoughts, or topics you want me to cover in this podcast, shoot me an email at pooja@poojavcoaching.com. You can grab that in the episode description too. Talk to you soon.